I never thought I'd be the guy writing one of these posts, but here I am. My wife Sarah and I have been married for 7 years. We met in college, clicked instantly, and I honestly thought we had one of those solid, ride-or-die relationships you only see in movies. I was proud of what we had. I bragged about her to my friends, told my family she was my rock, and I genuinely believed she felt the same about me. But over the last year, things have shifted. At first, it was little stuff. She started going out with her coworkers a lot more often. I'd ask who was there, and she'd roll her eyes like I was some clingy teenager. "Don't be so insecure," she'd say, tossing her phone face down on the couch while rushing to get ready. It stung, but I brushed it off. We all get busy, right? Then came the lies that didn't even make sense. She'd say she was working late, but I'd drive past her office on my way home and see the building completely dark. Or she'd forget to tell me about weekend plans until the last second, like I was just some roommate who needed to be informed out of courtesy. At first, I told myself I was overthinking things. That I was paranoid, maybe even a little controlling. But deep down, I knew something was off. The actual discovery wasn't some big Hollywood moment, no lipstick on the collar or catching her in bed with someone. It was way more mundane, which somehow made it worse. One night, she was in the shower, and her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Normally, I wouldn't snoop, I hate that stuff, but the preview popped up. It was from a guy named Matt, Jim. And the message read, "Last night was amazing. Can't wait to do it again, winking face. My stomach dropped so hard I thought I was going to puke. I sat there frozen, staring at the glowing screen like it was a bomb about to go off. My hands were shaking when I unlocked her phone. Yes, I knew her code. We'd always been open about that, funny how that turned out. What I saw made my chest ache. Dozens of messages. Flirty, explicit, intimate. Not just a one-off thing, but weeks of back and forth. Pictures too. Stuff I'd never even seen her wear for me. She came out of the shower humming like nothing had happened, hair wrapped in a towel. I just sat there, phone in my hand, feeling like my whole marriage had just caved in on itself. That was the exact moment my world tilted. So there I was, sitting on the bed with her phone in my hand, staring at her like I didn't even know who she was. She froze mid-step when she saw me holding it. "Why are you going through my phone?" she snapped, her voice sharp, instantly defensive. No shame, no guilt, just straight to anger. I said, "Because Matt from the gym apparently had an amazing night with you." Her face went pale for half a second, then she scoffed, flipping into that bitchy tone she uses when she's cornered. "Oh my God, are you serious right now? You're blowing this way out of proportion. Matt is just a friend. We were joking around." Joking around? There were nudes. There were "can't wait to taste you again" texts. That's not a damn joke. I held the phone up and said, "So this is your idea of a joke? Sending lingerie pics to your gym buddy?" She rolled her eyes. Rolled her eyes. Like I was the crazy one. "You're so insecure, no wonder I don't talk to you about anything anymore." Then she snatched the towel tighter around her like I was invading her privacy. I couldn't believe it, she was lying to my face, doubling down, and somehow trying to make it about my insecurity. That's when the shouting started. The shouting match was brutal. I demanded answers, and she just kept throwing out excuses like darts, hoping one would stick. First it was, "We're just friends, he's going through a tough time, and I was supporting him." Then it turned into, "You don't even pay attention to me anymore, what did you expect?" And finally, the classic, "It's not what it looks like. You're twisting everything." Every time I pointed at the texts, the photos, the timestamps that lined up with her late nights at work, she had some snide comeback. She even had the nerve to laugh at one point, like I was just some pathetic husband playing detective with half-baked theories. I'll never forget one line. She crossed her arms, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "If you trusted me, you wouldn't even be looking at my phone. The real problem is your paranoia." That hit me like a punch. Because for a split second, I actually wondered if I was crazy. If maybe I was making too much of this. That's how deep her manipulation cut. But then I scrolled back through the messages again. Clear as day, she was sneaking around, and here she was trying to gaslight me into believing it was all in my head. It was the moment I realized, not only was she cheating, but she was willing to lie to the grave before admitting it. I don't even know how long the fight went on. Time blurred into this mess of shouting, crying, me, not her, and her throwing every nasty, dismissive comment she could think of. The breaking point came when I said, "Just admit it, Sarah. You slept with him." She went stone cold. Her whole face shifted, eyes narrowed, lips tight, and instead of answering, she sneered, "So what if I did? At least he makes me feel wanted." That line. That single line cut deeper than anything. It wasn't even a confession, it was a weapon. Like she wanted to hurt me as much as possible. I felt the floor drop out from under me. My chest literally ached. My knees almost buckled, but I forced myself to stand my ground. My voice cracked when I said, 7 years, Sarah. 7 damn years, and this is what I get? Her response? She laughed. Not a nervous laugh, not a guilty one, a cruel little laugh like I was pathetic for still caring. Then she muttered, "Maybe if you weren't so boring, I wouldn't have had to look elsewhere." I swear in that moment, I wasn't even looking at my wife anymore. I was staring at a stranger. That was the night the marriage officially cracked in half. After that fight, the house felt like a war zone where the battle had already been fought, but the smoke was still hanging in the air. I couldn't even look at her without feeling sick. I ended up grabbing a pillow and blanket and crashing on the couch. I didn't sleep much, just laid there staring at the ceiling, my mind replaying every word, every sneer, every damn laugh she threw at me like knives. Meanwhile, she slammed the bedroom door shut and blasted music, like she was a teenager mad her parents grounded her. Not once did she come out to check on me, to apologize, to even pretend she cared that her husband was broken in half just a few feet away. The silence between us was deafening. No good morning the next day, no let's talk. She acted like nothing happened, like we hadn't just detonated 7 years of marriage in the living room. She brewed herself coffee, scrolled through her phone, and when I walked in, she didn't even glance up. That nonchalance almost hurt more than the confession itself. Because it told me everything I needed to know, she wasn't sorry. Not one bit. And in that moment, I realized, this wasn't just cheating. This was contempt. I didn't plan on telling anyone right away. Honestly, I was embarrassed. Humiliated. But the thing about betrayal is, it leaks. It shows in your face, your posture, your tone. People notice. My best friend Mark was the first to ask. We'd grabbed beers a few days later, and he took one look at me and said, "Dude, what's wrong? You look like hell." That cracked me. I told him everything, right there at the bar, my voice shaking and hands gripping the bottle like it was my lifeline. He was furious on my behalf. "She's trash, man. You deserve better." Hearing him say it out loud made me realize how much I'd been sugarcoating her behavior over the years. Then came my family. My mom, God bless her, could tell something was up when I skipped Sunday dinner. I broke down over the phone and told her the truth. She cried harder than I did. My dad? He went quiet. Dead quiet. Then he said, "Son, you don't come back from that. Don't let her drag you down with her lies." Sarah, meanwhile, found out I'd blabbed and lost her mind. When Sarah realized I'd told people, she went ballistic. I came home from work one night, and she was pacing the living room like a caged animal, her arms flailing as soon as I walked through the door. "How dare you air our dirty laundry to everyone," she screamed. "Do you know how humiliating that is for me?" I just stood there, numb, staring at her. The hypocrisy was unreal. She cheats on me, lies to my face, and she's the one humiliated? She kept going, her voice sharp and venomous. "You're making me look like the bad guy. People are texting me, asking what's going on. Do you know how awkward that is?" I couldn't help but snap back, Maybe if you didn't screw around with your gym buddy, you wouldn't have to worry about looking like the bad guy. Her face twisted, and instead of backing down, she spat, "You're pathetic. Always playing the victim. No wonder I had to find someone else." That was it. The final nail in whatever coffin was left of my patience. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't even pretending. She was angry because her mask had slipped, and the people around us finally saw her for who she really was. At that moment, I stopped trying to fix anything. Something inside me snapped. I was done protecting her reputation, done making excuses. The morning after that explosion, I sat her down at the kitchen table. I didn't raise my voice, didn't slam my fist, I was too drained for that. I just said, "We need to talk about separating." She rolled her eyes so hard I thought they'd get stuck. "Oh, here we go. The big dramatic speech. You're not actually going to leave me, stop kidding yourself." That arrogance lit something inside me. I told her straight, I can't live with someone who cheats, lies, and then laughs in my face about it. This marriage is over. For a split second, she looked stunned, like she hadn't actually believed I could do it. Then, as usual, she switched gears. Suddenly she was crying, saying, "It was just a mistake. I didn't mean for it to go this far. We can work through this. Don't throw away everything we've built." But it wasn't real remorse. I could see it in her eyes. The tears weren't for me, they were for herself, her comfort, her image, her stability. I told her I'd start looking for an apartment. She laughed bitterly through her tears and said, "Good luck. You'll be crawling back in a week when you realize you can't handle being alone." And that's when I knew, separation wasn't just necessary, it was survival. The week after our separation talk was chaos. Packing up my life into cardboard boxes felt like some twisted metaphor, shoving 7 years of memories into taped-up containers, deciding what stayed, what went, and what I couldn't stand to look at anymore. Sarah didn't make it easy. At first, she hovered while I packed, tossing out snide comments like, "Oh, so you're really doing this?" or "Don't forget that's mine." Then she'd swing the other way, suddenly helpful, handing me bubble wrap with this fake smile plastered on her face. It was emotional whiplash every single hour. The night I finally loaded the last box into my car, I sat behind the wheel and just breathed. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt a crack of freedom breaking through all the noise. No more late-night lies. No more eye rolls and gaslighting. No more feeling like I was living with someone who hated me. The apartment I moved into wasn't much, just a one-bedroom with beige walls and a kitchen that smelled faintly of old curry, but it was mine. My safe space. I remember lying down on that creaky mattress the first night, surrounded by boxes, and realizing the silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was peaceful. Of course, the heartbreak was still there, raw and gnawing. But under it, for the first time since everything blew up, was a tiny seed of something I hadn't felt in a long time, relief. Right after I moved my stuff into the new apartment, Sarah suddenly flipped the script. Out of nowhere, she started acting like the perfect wife. Sweet texts. "Hope you're doing okay." Even dropped off a casserole like we were starring in some twisted sitcom. It was so transparent it made my skin crawl. After weeks of mocking me, after admitting she cheated, now she wanted to play house again? Please. When I didn't bite, she escalated. She'd show up at my place unannounced, all dolled up, trying to seduce me back into bed. When that didn't work, the guilt trip started. "I can't believe you're giving up on us so easily. Don't you remember our vows?" Yeah, I remember the vows. I also remember the texts to Matt, Jim, where she said, "You're the only one who makes me feel alive." The whiplash was insane. One minute she was icy and cruel, the next she was fake crying about how much she missed me. It was like living with a stranger wearing my wife's face. And for the first time in weeks, instead of feeling broken, I started to feel angry in a clear-headed way. Her nice phase wasn't about love, it was about control. A couple weeks after I'd settled into my apartment, I got a knock on the door. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I figured it was a delivery. But when I opened it, there he was. Matt, Jim. I froze. He was taller than I expected, smug little grin plastered on his face like he knew exactly who I was. And the audacity, he actually said, "Hey man, can we talk?" Like we were old buddies. My blood went cold. "What the hell are you doing here?" I snapped. He shrugged, all casual, leaning against the door frame. "Look, Sarah told me you guys were basically done before anything even started with us. I just wanted to clear the air, man to man." I almost laughed in his face. Done? That was news to me. 7 years of marriage, and she'd been telling her side piece we were basically done months before I even knew. I told him flat out to get the hell out of my sight. He tried to play peacemaker, muttering about how it wasn't personal and she needed someone to be there for her. That was the moment it really hit me, this guy wasn't just some fling. He thought he was justified. He thought he was the replacement. I slammed the door in his face, shaking with rage. And as soon as it clicked shut, I realized something important Sarah had sent him. No way he just decided to drop by. She was still trying to control the narrative, using him as her messenger. It was sick. And it hardened me even more. After Matt the homewrecker showed up at my door, I knew I couldn't drag this out any longer. Separation wasn't enough, Sarah still had her hooks in, trying to control the situation, trying to rewrite the story. If I didn't cut the cord for good, she'd keep slithering back into my life. So I went to see a lawyer. Sitting in that office, hearing the words irreconcilable differences and division of assets, felt surreal. This was the woman I'd once promised forever to, and now I was itemizing furniture and debating who got the coffee table. When I told Sarah I was filing, she exploded again. She threw every weapon in her arsenal: guilt, "How can you just give up on us?" Anger, "You're going to regret this, you spineless coward," and even pity plays, "I can't survive without you, don't do this to me." But the worst part? She suddenly turned into a financial hawk. The same woman who mocked me for working overtime was now snarling about what she was entitled to. She didn't want me, she wanted my paycheck. That was the final confirmation I needed. Whatever love I thought we had was long gone. All that was left was her bitterness, her greed, and my determination to walk away intact. The day I signed those papers, my hand shook, but not from sadness. From relief. Filing for divorce didn't calm things down, it cranked the drama up to 11. Sarah treated the whole process like a stage play where she could twist every fact and play the innocent victim. She told anyone who'd listen that I had abandoned her. That I was cold and controlling, that I never paid attention to her, and, this one killed me, that I was the one who drove her into Matt's arms. Hearing mutual friends repeat that crap back to me was like getting stabbed all over again. In the courtroom, she turned on the tears like a faucet. She'd sit there dabbing her eyes, pretending to be this fragile little wife whose mean, heartless husband was throwing her out. Meanwhile, my lawyer and I had stacks of texts, screenshots, and timelines that told a completely different story. She also tried to play financial hardball, demanding spousal support like she hadn't been the one blowing money on work dinners that were actually hotel rooms with Matt. Luckily, my lawyer was sharp. Every lie she tried to spin unraveled under evidence. Still, the games took their toll. Every court date, every lawyer email, every document request, it all drained me. Not just money, but energy, sanity, peace of mind. It was like she couldn't let me go unless she dragged me through the mud first. But I kept reminding myself, every signature, every hearing, every bitter exchange brought me one step closer to freedom. The day the divorce was finalized was strangely anticlimactic. After months of screaming matches, lawyer bills, and Sarah's endless theatrics, it all came down to a judge's monotone voice and a stack of stamped papers. I sat there in the courtroom, heart pounding, while Sarah sniffled beside her lawyer, putting on her best tragically wronged woman act. But when the judge said, "The divorce is granted," something in me snapped free. It was like a chain breaking inside my chest. Sarah didn't take it well. The moment we walked out, she cornered me in the hallway. "You'll regret this," she hissed. Matt will get bored, and you'll come crawling back. And by then, I won't want you. For once, her words didn't land. I just looked at her and said, good. Then we're finally on the same page. And I walked away. That night, I sat in my tiny apartment with a cheap bottle of whiskey and takeout Chinese, staring at the divorce papers on the table. Instead of sadness, I felt this weird, quiet relief. My marriage was officially over, yes, but so was the gaslighting, the lies, the constant ache of wondering what she was doing behind my back. For the first time in a long time, the silence felt like mine. The weeks after the divorce felt like detox. At first, the silence in my apartment was deafening. I'd gotten so used to her constant criticism, her slamming doors, her snide little digs. But as days passed, that silence started to feel like peace. I built a new routine from scratch. Morning runs before work, cooking for myself, and realizing how much I actually enjoy it, even picking up an old hobby, guitar, that Sarah used to roll her eyes at. Slowly, I started reclaiming the parts of myself I'd buried just to keep her happy. The funny part? People around me noticed before I did. My mom said, "You're smiling again, honey." Mark joked that I didn't look like a zombie anymore. Even coworkers commented that I seemed lighter. Meanwhile, Sarah kept trying to poke her way back in. Random texts, "Hope you're doing okay. I still think about us." I ignored every single one. I wasn't going back. Not after everything. It wasn't all sunshine. I had nights where I'd break down, wondering how the person I trusted most turned into the one who hurt me the worst. But each breakdown was followed by a realization: I was healing. Slowly, painfully, but truly. For the first time in years, I felt like I was living for me. Ignoring Sarah's texts worked for a while, until she realized I wasn't playing her game anymore. That's when the real meltdown started. One Saturday morning, she showed up at my apartment uninvited, banging on the door so hard I thought she'd break it down. When I opened it just a crack, she launched into full drama mode, tears streaming, mascara running, sobbing about how Matt wasn't who she thought he was and how she made the biggest mistake of her life. Then, without missing a beat, she tried to spin it into an attack. "You pushed me into his arms. If you'd been more of a man, I wouldn't have needed him." It was the same cycle as before: cry, guilt, insult, repeat. Only this time, it didn't work. I stood there, calm as stone, and said, "Sarah, you need to leave. We're done." She lost it. Screamed at me in the hallway loud enough for neighbors to peek out. "You're nothing without me. You'll come crawling back, just wait." But here's the kicker: when the elevator doors closed and her voice finally faded, I didn't feel broken. I felt free. Her meltdown wasn't proof that I'd lost something, it was proof that I'd escaped. That was the last time I ever saw her in person. After Sarah's final meltdown, the dust started to settle. For the first time in years, I could actually breathe without feeling like I was being judged or second-guessed. But the scars she left weren't invisible. Trust was the hardest part. Even with friends, I found myself second-guessing their words, looking for hidden motives. Dating? Forget it. The idea of opening up to someone again felt terrifying. I'd catch myself thinking, what if they're just another Sarah? But little by little, I tested the waters. I let Mark drag me out to a trivia night at a bar. I forced myself to talk to new people, to laugh without that voice in the back of my head saying it would all come crashing down. And slowly, I started to realize not everyone lies. Not everyone betrays. There are good people out there, people who don't roll their eyes when you share your hobbies, people who don't gaslight you into thinking your pain isn't real. It wasn't about finding someone new right away. It was about learning that I could trust again, even in small steps. Trusting myself first, then others. Every time I said no to Sarah's manipulations, every time I chose peace over chaos, I built that trust back brick by brick. And for the first time, I started to believe I wasn't broken, I was rebuilding. If you're reading this and suspect your partner is cheating, let me tell you, trust your gut. I ignored mine for months, telling myself I was paranoid, telling myself I was being insecure, because that's exactly what Sarah wanted me to believe. Don't do that to yourself. The second thing, once the lies start piling up, understand that you can't argue your way back into honesty. I tried. I begged. I confronted. She doubled down every time. If someone is willing to look you in the eye and gaslight you while the proof is sitting in your hand, they don't respect you. And without respect, love means nothing. Also, don't be afraid to lean on your people. Friends, family, whoever you trust. I was embarrassed to admit what was happening, but the moment I did, it was like a weight lifted off me. Their support is what kept me standing when I felt like collapsing. And finally, remember this, leaving isn't weakness. It's not giving up. It's choosing yourself. I used to think divorce was the ultimate failure. Now I see it as survival. As reclaiming my life. If you're stuck in that fog of lies and betrayal, just know, it does get better. It's brutal, it's messy, it feels impossible, but one day you'll wake up, breathe, and realize the pain is fading. Looking back now, it's surreal how quickly a life can unravel. 7 years together, and in a matter of weeks, it all turned into screaming matches, courtrooms, and slammed doors. I used to think Sarah was my forever. Turns out, she was just a chapter, and not even a good one. What I've learned is simple, but it cost me everything to figure it out. Love without respect is poison. If your partner lies, mocks you, cheats, or makes you question your own sanity, that isn't love, it's control. And no amount of history or vows can justify staying chained to that. Do I still hurt? Yeah. Betrayal doesn't just vanish. Some nights I still wake up angry, or sad, or wondering how I missed the signs. But I'm not broken anymore. I'm rebuilding. Stronger. Smarter. Free. If I had to leave anyone reading this with advice, it'd be this: don't be afraid to walk away. You're not weak for leaving, you're brave. You're choosing to give yourself the peace and respect you deserve. Sarah may have thought she shattered me. But in the end, she just freed me. And that's something I'll carry forward for the rest of my life.